Hello everyone, and welcome to Rochford's English Learning Channel. I'm your host, Sarah, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you here with me today. Whether you're listening while having your morning coffee, during your commute, or relaxing at home in the evening, thank you so much for choosing to spend your time learning English with us. Today's episode is specially designed for our beginner learners, those of you at the A1 level who are just starting your exciting journey into the English language. We're going to talk about something that everyone in the world has in common, something that connects all of us, no matter where we live or what language we speak. Can you guess what it is? That's right. We're going to talk about our daily routines, the things we do every single day, from the moment we wake up until we go to sleep at night. Now, before we dive into today's lesson, I want to take a moment to ask for your support. If you find this podcast helpful, please subscribe to Rochford's English Learning Channel so you never miss an episode. We release new content regularly, and each episode is carefully designed to help you improve your English in practical, useful ways. Also, if you're enjoying what you hear, please share this podcast with your friends, family members, or colleagues who are also learning English. Word of mouth is the best way for us to reach more learners like you. And finally, if you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, please leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you think. Your feedback helps us create better content for you and helps other learners find us too. All right, are you ready to learn? Let's get started. So let's begin at the very beginning of the day. The morning. For most people, the morning is one of the busiest and most important parts of the day because it sets the tone for everything that follows. Let me walk you through a typical morning routine. And as I do, I want you to listen carefully to the verbs and phrases I use. These are words and expressions you can use to describe your own morning. The first thing that happens in the morning, of course, is that we wake up. Wake up is a phrasal verb that means to stop sleeping and become conscious. For example, I might say, I wake up at 6:30 every morning. The time you wake up is very personal. Some people are early risers who wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning, while others prefer to sleep later and might wake up at 8 or 9 o'clock. What time do you wake up? Think about it in English. Now, here's an interesting question. Do you wake up naturally or do you need help? Many people, including myself, use an alarm clock to wake up. An alarm clock is a device that makes a loud sound at a specific time to help you wake up. So I might say, my alarm clock rings at 6:30, and that's when I wake up. Some people use their phone as an alarm clock these days. You could say, I set an alarm on my phone for 7 o'clock. After I wake up, the next thing I do is get out of bed. This is another important phrasal verb. Get out of bed means to physically leave your bed and stand up. Sometimes, especially on cold mornings or when you're very tired, it's difficult to get out of bed, right? You might want to stay under the warm blankets for just 5 more minutes. But eventually, we all have to get out of bed and start our day. Once I'm out of bed, I usually go to the bathroom. The bathroom is one of the most important rooms in the house in the morning. What do we do in the bathroom? Well, there are several things. First, I wash my face. Wash my face means to clean my face with water and soap. This helps me feel fresh and awake. I might say, I wash my face with cold water in the morning because it wakes me up. Next, I brush my teeth. Brush my teeth is something we should do at least twice a day, in the morning and before bed. When you brush your teeth, you use a toothbrush and toothpaste to clean your teeth. This is very important for dental hygiene. You might say, I brush my teeth for 2 minutes every morning. Some people also take a shower in the morning. Take a shower means to wash your body while standing under running water. Other people prefer to take a bath, which means to wash your body while sitting in a bathtub filled with water. Personally, I prefer to take a shower in the morning because it's quicker and it helps me feel energized. I might say, I take a shower every morning before breakfast. However, some people prefer to take a shower in the evening instead. That's perfectly fine too. Everyone has their own routine. After I finish in the bathroom, I usually get dressed. Get dressed means to put on your clothes. This is a reflexive action that we do every day. When you get dressed, you choose what clothes to wear and then put them on your body. For example, I might say, I get dressed quickly in the morning because I don't have much time. But let's talk more specifically about putting on clothes. We use the phrasal verb put on when we talk about individual items of clothing. For example, I put on a shirt, I put on pants or trousers, I put on socks, and I put on shoes. Notice that we say put on, not just put. This is important. So you might hear someone say, I put on my favorite jeans and a comfortable sweater. Now let's talk about breakfast. After getting dressed, many people go to the kitchen to make breakfast or have breakfast. Make breakfast means to prepare food to eat in the morning. Have breakfast means to eat the morning meal. These are two different actions. For example, I might say, I make breakfast for my family every morning, or I have breakfast at 7:30. What do people typically eat for breakfast? Well, this varies greatly depending on where you live in the world. In many English-speaking countries, common breakfast foods include cereal with milk, toast with butter or jam, eggs, bacon, pancakes, yogurt, fruit, and oatmeal. For drinks, people often have coffee, tea, orange juice, or milk. Now, let me give you some examples of how to talk about breakfast. I usually have cereal and coffee for breakfast. I like to eat eggs and toast in the morning. Sometimes I have fruit and yogurt for a light breakfast. On weekends, I make pancakes for my family. What about you? What do you usually have for breakfast? Try to say it in English. Don't worry if you don't know all the words yet. You can say something simple like, I have bread and tea for breakfast, or I eat rice for breakfast. Remember, breakfast foods are different in every culture, and that's wonderful. Now, here's something interesting. Not everyone has time to sit down and have a proper breakfast at home. Some people are in a hurry in the morning. If you're in a hurry, it means you need to do things quickly because you don't have much time. So some people might grab a quick breakfast, which means to quickly take some food. Or they might buy breakfast on the way to work. You could say, I don't have time for breakfast at home, so I grab a coffee and a pastry on my way to work. After breakfast, it's time to prepare to leave the house. This might involve several things. First, you might need to put on your shoes. Remember, we use put on for items we wear. You might also need to put on a jacket or coat, especially if the weather is cold. You might also need to take your bag. Take your bag means to pick up your bag and bring it with you. In your bag, you might have important things like your wallet, your keys, your phone, and maybe some papers or books. Before leaving, some people also check that they have everything they need. You might check your bag to make sure you have your keys, your phone, and your wallet. You might look in the mirror one last time to check your appearance. Check is a very useful verb that means to verify or make sure of something. Finally, it's time to leave the house. Leave the house is a very common expression that means to go outside and close the door behind you. After you leave the house, you might lock the door to keep your home secure. So you might say, I leave the house at 8 o'clock every morning. Or, I always lock the door after I leave the house. Where do you go after you leave the house? Many people go to work. Go to work is a common expression that means to travel to your workplace. Different people go to work in different ways. Some people drive to work, which means they use their own car. Some people take the bus or take the train, which means they use public transportation. Some people walk to work if they live close to their workplace, and some people ride a bike to work. Let me give you some examples. I drive to work every morning. It takes about 30 minutes. I take the bus to work. The bus stop is near my house. I'm lucky because I can walk to work in just 15 minutes. I ride my bike to work when the weather is nice. Of course, not everyone goes to a workplace. Some people work from home, which means they do their job at their house without traveling to an office. If you work from home, you might say, I work from home, so I don't need to commute. Commute is a verb that means to travel to and from work. Other people might not go to work in the morning. Students go to school or go to university. Parents with young children might take their children to school or take their children to kindergarten. Retired people who no longer work because of their age might have different morning routines entirely. Let's review all the key verbs and phrases we've learned for the morning routine. Listen carefully. Wake up, get out of bed. Go to the bathroom, wash my face, brush my teeth, take a shower, get dressed, put on clothes, make breakfast, have breakfast, leave the house, lock the door, go to work, drive to work, take the bus, walk to work. These are essential phrases for describing your morning. Try to use them when you talk about your own routine. Now let's move on to what happens during the day. For most people, the daytime is when we do our main activities, usually work or study. This is typically the longest and most productive part of our day. Let's start by talking about what happens when you arrive at work. When you get to your workplace, you might say hello to your colleagues. Colleagues are the people you work with. You might say, "Good morning," or "How are you?" to your colleagues. This is polite and friendly. Then you probably go to your desk or your workstation. A desk is a table where you work, and many office workers spend most of their day sitting at their desk. You might say, "I sit at my desk all day," or "I work at my desk from 9 to 5. The phrase 9 to 5 is commonly used to describe typical office working hours, from 9 in the morning until 5 in the evening. What do people do at work? Well, this depends completely on what kind of job you have. Let me describe some common work activities that many people do, especially those who work in offices. Many people work on a computer or use a computer. These days, computers are essential tools for most jobs. You might type on your keyboard, use your mouse to click on things, look at your monitor or screen, and work with various programs and software. You might say, "I use my computer all day at work," or "I work on my computer for about 8 hours a day." One very common work activity is answering emails or responding to emails. Email is electronic mail, messages that we send and receive through the internet. In many jobs, you might receive dozens or even hundreds of emails every day, and you need to read them and reply to them. You could say, "I spend a lot of time answering emails at work," or "I check my email several times a day." Another common activity is attending meetings or having meetings. A meeting is when several people come together to discuss something, usually work-related topics. Meetings can happen in person, where everyone is in the same room. Or they can be online meetings or virtual meetings, where people connect through the internet using video conferencing software. You might say, "I have a meeting with my team every Monday morning," or "I attend several meetings each week." Some people also make phone calls or answer phone calls as part of their job. When you make a phone call, you use a telephone to contact someone. When you answer a phone call, you pick up the phone when someone calls you. You might say, "I make phone calls to clients every afternoon," or "I answer the phone when customers call our company." Depending on your job, you might also write reports, which are detailed documents about a specific topic. You might prepare presentations, which are talks or speeches that you give to a group of people, often with slides. You might analyze data, which means to examine numbers and information carefully. You might meet with clients, who are people or companies that use your services. There are so many different work activities. Let me give you some more examples of what different people might do at work. A teacher works at a school. They teach students, prepare lessons, grade homework, and talk to parents. A doctor works at a hospital or clinic. They see patients, examine people who are sick, diagnose illnesses, and prescribe medicine. A salesperson works in a store or for a company. They help customers, show products, answer questions, and sell things. A chef works in a restaurant. They cook food, prepare meals, create recipes, and manage the kitchen. Now, I know that not everyone works in an office or has a traditional job. Students spend their days very differently. Students go to classes or attend classes, which means they go to lessons where a teacher instructs them. They take notes, which means they write down important information while the teacher is speaking. They do homework or complete assignments, which are tasks given by teachers. They study for exams, which means they review and learn material in preparation for tests. They might also work on projects, participate in discussions, or do research in the library. Let's talk about lunchtime. In the middle of the day, most people take a lunch break. A lunch break is a period of time, usually around 1 hour, when you stop working and have lunch. Have lunch or eat lunch means to eat the midday meal. Where do people have lunch? Some people bring lunch from home. This means they prepare food at home and bring it to work in a container called a lunchbox or lunch bag. This is often healthier and cheaper than buying food. You might say, "I bring my lunch from home every day. Today I brought a sandwich and some fruit." Other people buy lunch. They might go to a restaurant, a cafe, or a cafeteria to buy food. A cafeteria is a type of restaurant, often found in schools or large workplaces, where you can choose from several different dishes. You might say, I usually buy lunch at the cafeteria, or I go to a nearby restaurant for lunch. Some people go out for lunch with colleagues or friends. This means they leave their workplace and eat together at a restaurant or cafe. This can be a nice way to socialize and take a break from work. You might say, sometimes I go out for lunch with my coworkers. What do people typically eat for lunch? Again, this varies by culture and personal preference. Common lunch foods might include sandwiches, salads, pasta, rice dishes, soup, pizza, or leftovers from dinner the night before. Leftovers are food that you cooked previously and saved to eat later. After lunch, most people go back to work or return to work. This means they continue working for the rest of the afternoon. The afternoon is the time between midday and evening, roughly from noon until 5 or 6 o'clock. During the afternoon, people continue with their work tasks, attend more meetings, finish projects, or prepare for the next day. As the end of the workday approaches, people might start to wrap up their work. Wrap up is a phrasal verb that means to finish or complete something. You might finish any urgent tasks, reply to last-minute emails, organize your desk, or make a to-do list for tomorrow. A to-do list is a written list of tasks that you need to complete. Finally, it's time to finish work or leave work. When your workday ends, you might say goodbye to your colleagues, turn off your computer, tidy your desk, and then leave the office. The time you finish work depends on your job and your schedule. Some people finish at 5, others at 6, and some people work different hours entirely. Let's review the main verbs and phrases for daytime activities. Arrive at work. Say hello to colleagues. Sit at my desk, work on a computer, answer emails, attend meetings, make phone calls, write reports, teach students, see patients, help customers, take a lunch break, have lunch, bring lunch from home, buy lunch, go back to work, finish work, leave work. These expressions will help you talk about your workday or school day in English. Now we come to my favorite part of the day, the evening. After a long day of work or study, the evening is when we finally get to relax, spend time with people we care about, and do things we enjoy. Let's talk about typical evening routines. First, after you finish work, you need to get home. This is your commute home or your journey home. Just like in the morning, different people travel home in different ways. You might drive home, take the bus home, walk home, or ride your bike home. The commute home can take anywhere from a few minutes to several hours, depending on where you live and work. When you arrive home or get home, what's the first thing you do? Many people take off their work clothes as soon as they get home. Take off is the opposite of put on. When you take off your clothes, you remove them from your body. You might take off your jacket, take off your shoes, and change into more comfortable clothes. We call comfortable clothes that you wear at home casual clothes or loungewear. You might say, the first thing I do when I get home is take off my work clothes and put on something comfortable. After changing clothes, many people like to relax for a bit. Relax means to rest and do something peaceful that reduces stress. There are many ways to relax. You might sit on the sofa, which is a comfortable chair for 2 or more people. In American English, we usually say sofa or couch. You might say, I like to relax on the sofa after work. What do people do while relaxing? Many people watch TV or watch television. Watch TV means to look at programs on a television. You might watch the news to learn about current events, watch a series or TV show that you follow regularly, watch a movie, or watch a documentary. You might say, I usually watch TV for an hour after I get home. Or, I'm watching a really interesting series right now about nature. Some people prefer to listen to music while they relax. Listen to music means to play songs and enjoy the sound. You might listen to different types of music depending on your mood. Rock, pop, classical, jazz, country, electronic, or traditional music from your culture. You might say, I like to listen to relaxing music in the evening, or I listen to my favorite playlist after work. Other people prefer to read. Read means to look at written words and understand them. You might read a book, read a magazine, read the newspaper, or read articles online. Reading is a wonderful way to relax and also improve your language skills. You might say, I try to read for at least 30 minutes every evening, or I'm currently reading a fascinating book about history. Now, let's talk about one of the most important evening activities, dinner. Dinner is the main meal that most people eat in the evening. Some people call this meal supper instead, especially in certain regions or countries. Who prepares dinner in your household? In many families, cooking dinner is shared among family members. You might cook dinner yourself, your partner might cook, or you might take turns cooking. Take turns means to alternate, so one person does something one day and another person does it the next day. Let's talk about the process of making dinner. First, you need to decide what to cook. You might look at a recipe, which is a set of instructions for preparing a dish. You might also just cook something you know well without a recipe. Then, you need to get the ingredients, which are the items of food you need to make the dish. You might already have these ingredients in your kitchen, or you might need to go shopping. Then, you start cooking. Cooking involves many different actions. You might chop vegetables, which means to cut them into small pieces. You might boil water, which means to heat water until it bubbles. You might fry something in a pan with oil, bake something in an oven, or grill something on a barbecue. You might season your food by adding salt, pepper, and other spices. You might stir the food while it cooks, which means to mix it with a spoon. When the food is ready, we say it's done or it's cooked. What do people typically eat for dinner? This varies enormously depending on culture, personal preference, and dietary needs. Some common dinner dishes include pasta with sauce, rice with vegetables and meat or fish, soup with bread, stir-fried dishes, roasted chicken or meat, pizza, salads, and many other options. You might say, "Tonight I'm cooking pasta with tomato sauce," or "We're having chicken and rice for dinner." Where do you eat dinner? Many families try to eat dinner together at the dining table. The dining table is a table specifically for eating meals, usually in the kitchen or in a separate dining room. Eating together as a family is a nice tradition because it gives everyone a chance to talk about their day and spend quality time together. You might say, "My family eats dinner together at the table every evening." However, some people eat dinner in front of the TV, sitting on the sofa. Some people eat dinner at their desk if they're busy with work. And some people eat dinner while standing in the kitchen if they're in a hurry. Everyone's situation is different. After finishing dinner, there's usually cleaning up to do. You need to clear the table, which means to take all the dishes, plates, cups, and utensils from the table. Then you need to wash the dishes or do the dishes. This means to clean all the dirty plates, bowls, cups, and cooking equipment. Some people wash dishes by hand in the sink, while others use a dishwasher, which is a machine that washes dishes automatically. You might say, "I hate washing the dishes, but it has to be done." Or, "My husband usually does the dishes after I cook." After dinner and cleaning up, the rest of the evening is free time. Free time is time when you can do whatever you want because you have no obligations. How do people spend their evening free time? Some people pursue hobbies. A hobby is an activity that you do for pleasure in your free time. You might practice a musical instrument, draw or paint, do crafts like knitting or woodworking, garden, work on puzzles, or collect things like stamps or coins. You might say, "My hobby is photography. I spend my evenings taking photos and editing them." Or, "I enjoy painting in the evening. It helps me relax." Some people spend time with family. You might play games with your children, help your children with their homework, talk with your spouse or partner about the day, or video call relatives who live far away. You might say, "I spend the evening playing with my kids," or "My husband and I like to talk about our day while having tea." Some people spend time with friends. You might invite friends over, which means to ask them to come to your house. You might go out with friends to a cafe, restaurant, bar, or cinema. You might talk on the phone with friends or chat with friends online. Social interaction is important for our well-being. You might say, "Sometimes my friends come over in the evening and we watch movies together," or "I like to call my best friend and talk for an hour." Some people use the evening to exercise. Even though you might be tired after work, physical activity can actually give you more energy and help you sleep better. You might go for a run, go to the gym, do yoga at home, go swimming, or go for a walk. Going for a walk is particularly popular because it's a gentle exercise that almost anyone can do. You might say, "I go for a walk every evening after dinner," or I try to go to the gym 3 times a week in the evening. Other people use the evening to study or learn something new. You might take an online course, study a language, like you're doing right now by listening to this podcast, read educational books, or watch educational videos. Continuous learning is wonderful for keeping your mind active. You might say, I'm studying Spanish in the evenings, or I watch English learning videos every night before bed. Some people need to use the evening to do household chores. Chores are necessary tasks that you need to do to maintain your home. You might do laundry, which means to wash your clothes. You might iron clothes, which means to make them smooth using a hot iron. You might vacuum the floor, dust the furniture, clean the bathroom, or organize things around the house. You might say, I do laundry twice a week, or I usually clean the house on Sunday evenings. As the evening gets later, you start preparing for bed. This is your bedtime routine or nighttime routine. Just like the morning routine, having a consistent bedtime routine can help you sleep better. What do people do before bed? First, you might take a shower or take a bath if you didn't do so in the morning. Some people prefer to wash in the evening because it helps them feel clean and relaxed before sleep. You might say, I always take a hot bath before bed because it helps me relax. Next, you probably brush your teeth again. Remember, we should brush our teeth at least twice a day, once in the morning and once before bed. This is very important for dental health. You might also floss your teeth, which means to clean between your teeth with a special thread called dental floss. Some people have other bedtime rituals. A ritual is something you do regularly as part of a routine. You might read a book in bed for a few minutes. Reading before bed is a great way to wind down. Wind down is a phrasal verb that means to gradually relax and prepare for sleep. You might listen to calm music or a meditation app. You might write in a journal, which is a book where you write about your thoughts and experiences. You might check that all the doors are locked and turn off all the lights in the house. Many people also check their alarm clock to make sure it's set for the next morning. You might also prepare things for the next day, such as preparing your clothes, packing your bag, or preparing your lunch. Doing these things at night can make your morning less stressful. Finally, it's time to go to bed or go to sleep. Go to bed means to lie down in your bed with the intention of sleeping. Go to sleep or fall asleep means to actually lose consciousness and begin sleeping. Sometimes there's a gap between these two. You might go to bed at 10 o'clock, but not fall asleep until 10:30. What time should you go to bed? This depends on what time you need to wake up and how much sleep you need. Most adults need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night to feel rested and healthy. So if you need to wake up at 6 in the morning and you need 8 hours of sleep, you should try to go to bed by 10 in the evening. Before you fall asleep, you might say goodnight to family members who share your home. Goodnight is what we say to people before we or they go to sleep. It's a nice way to show care and affection. You might say, "Goodnight, sleep well," or "Goodnight, see you in the morning." And then you close your eyes, get comfortable under the blankets or covers, and drift off to sleep. Drift off is a gentle way to say, fall asleep, and that's the end of the day. You've completed a full cycle, and tomorrow you'll wake up and do it all over again. Let's review the key verbs and phrases for the evening. Get home. Arrive home. Take off work clothes. Change clothes, relax, sit on the sofa. Watch TV, listen to music, read a book, cook dinner, make dinner, have dinner, eat dinner, clear the table, wash the dishes, spend time with family, play with children, go for a walk, exercise, do laundry, do chores, take a shower, take a bath, brush teeth, set the alarm, go to bed, fall asleep. These phrases will help you describe your evening routine in English. Now that we've gone through a complete day from morning to night, let's talk about how you can practice using all these new words and phrases. Remember, language learning is not just about understanding. It's about using the language actively. Here's my first suggestion. Try to describe your own day in English. You can do this as a mental exercise while you're going about your daily activities. For example, when you wake up in the morning, think to yourself in English, "I'm waking up now. I'm getting out of bed. Now I'm going to the bathroom." This kind of internal narration helps you practice thinking in English, which is a very important skill. You can also write about your day. Take a notebook or open a document on your computer and write a few sentences about what you did today. You don't need to write a lot. Even 5 or 6 sentences is excellent practice. For example, you might write, "Today I woke up at 7 o'clock. I had coffee and toast for breakfast. I went to work by bus. I had lunch with my colleague. After work, I went home and cooked pasta for dinner. Then I watched TV and went to bed at 11. If you're learning English with a friend or family member, you can practice together. Ask each other questions about your routines. For example, what time do you wake up? What do you usually have for breakfast? How do you go to work? What do you do in the evening? Then answer in complete sentences. This kind of conversation practice is extremely valuable. Another great exercise is to compare your routine with someone else's routine. Maybe you can find an English-speaking friend online, or you can read about other people's routines in English. Notice the similarities and differences. This not only helps you practice English, but also helps you learn about different cultures and lifestyles. Let me also give you some tips for expanding your vocabulary related to daily routines. When you learn a new verb, try to learn common phrases that go with it. For example, don't just learn the verb make. Learn phrases like make breakfast, make dinner, make tea, make coffee, make a plan, and make a phone call. This is called learning collocations, and it's how native speakers naturally use language. Similarly, when you learn about a part of your routine, learn all the related vocabulary together. For example, when learning about breakfast, don't just learn have breakfast. Also learn the names of breakfast foods: cereal, toast, eggs, bacon, pancakes, coffee, tea, juice. Learn the actions: pour milk, spread butter, cook eggs, fry bacon. Learning vocabulary in context and in groups makes it much easier to remember and use. I also want to address something that many learners worry about: variations in routines. Not everyone has the same routine every day. Maybe you work different shifts. Maybe you work on weekends. Maybe your routine changes depending on the day of the week. This is completely normal, and you can talk about it in English. You can use time expressions to show when you do different things. For example, on weekdays I wake up at 6:30, but on weekends I wake up at 9. Usually I have lunch at work, but sometimes I go to a restaurant. I normally go to bed at 10, but occasionally I stay up late. Time expressions like usually, normally, sometimes, often, occasionally, rarely, always, and never are very useful for describing routines and their variations. You might also have different routines for different days. On Mondays, I have a meeting first thing in the morning. On Fridays, I finish work early. On Sundays, I don't set an alarm clock. I sleep until I wake up naturally. Using days of the week helps you be specific about your routine. Let me also mention that it's okay if your routine is different from what I described. Everyone's life is unique. Maybe you work night shifts, so you sleep during the day and work at night. Maybe you're a student, so your day revolves around classes rather than an office job. Maybe you're retired, so you have more flexibility in how you structure your day. Maybe you don't work at all for various reasons. All of these situations are valid, and you can describe them in English. For example, if you work night shifts, you might say, "I work at night, so my routine is different from most people. I wake up in the afternoon, have breakfast at 2 p.m., go to work in the evening, and come home in the morning. Then I have dinner, or should I say breakfast, and go to bed while most people are starting their day." If you're a student, you might say, "My day starts early. I wake up at 7, get ready quickly, and catch the bus to university. I have classes from 9 until 3, with a lunch break at noon. After classes, I go to the library to study. I get home around 6, have dinner with my family, and then do my homework. I try to go to bed by 11. If you're retired, you might say, "Now that I'm retired, I have a more relaxed routine. I wake up naturally whenever my body is ready, usually around 8. I take my time with breakfast, reading the newspaper, and enjoying my coffee. I might go for a long walk, meet friends for lunch, work in my garden, or pursue my hobbies. My days are flexible and peaceful." The point is, whatever your routine is, you can describe it in English using the vocabulary and structures we've learned today. Now, for those of you who are progressing beyond the very basics and want to sound a bit more natural, let me share some expressions and idioms related to daily routines. These are phrases that native speakers use frequently in casual conversation. When talking about waking up, instead of just saying, "I wake up early," you might hear someone say, "I'm an early bird." An early bird is a person who wakes up early and is active in the morning. The opposite is a night owl, which is a person who stays up late at night and is more active in the evening. So you might say, "I'm definitely an early bird." "I love mornings," or "My brother is a night owl. He never goes to bed before midnight." If someone has trouble waking up in the morning, they might say, "I'm not a morning person." This means they don't feel energetic or happy in the morning. They might also say, "I hit the snooze button 5 times before I finally get up." The snooze button is a button on an alarm clock that makes the alarm stop for a few minutes so you can sleep a bit more. When someone is very busy at work, they might say, "I'm swamped," or "I'm buried in work." Both of these expressions mean you have too much work to do. You might say, "Sorry, I can't meet for lunch today. I'm completely swamped with meetings." If you work very hard, you might say, "I'm working my fingers to the bone," or "I'm burning the midnight oil." Burning the midnight oil means working late into the night. It comes from the old days when people used oil lamps to see in the dark. When it's time to finish work, instead of saying, "I finish work," you might say, "I clock out," or "I call it a day." Call it a day means to decide to stop working. You might say, "I'm exhausted. Let's call it a day and go home." After a long day, if you're very tired, you might say, "I'm exhausted. I'm wiped out. I'm beat," or "I'm running on empty." All of these mean you have no energy left. You might say, after working 10 hours, "I'm completely wiped out." When you're relaxing at home, you might say, "I'm chilling," "I'm taking it easy," or "I'm unwinding." These all mean you're relaxing and not doing anything stressful. Unwind literally means to undo something that's wound up tight, like a spring, so it's a nice metaphor for releasing stress. If you're eating a quick meal because you're busy, you might say, "I'm grabbing a bite," or "I'm grabbing something to eat." Grab here means to take quickly. So instead of "I'm having lunch," you might say, "I'm just grabbing a quick bite before my next meeting." When talking about cooking, if you order food from a restaurant to eat at home, you might say, "I'm getting takeout," or "I'm ordering in." If you don't feel like cooking and want to eat at a restaurant, you might say, "Let's go out to eat," or "Let's eat out tonight." If you're doing household chores, you might say, "I'm doing some housework," or "I'm tidying up." Tidy up means to make things neat and organized. If your house is very messy and you clean it thoroughly, you might say, "I did a deep clean of the house," or "I gave the house a good cleaning." When you're going to bed, instead of just saying, "I'm going to bed," you might say, "I'm hitting the hay," "I'm turning in," or "I'm calling it a night." These are all informal, friendly ways to say you're going to sleep. You might say to your family, "I'm exhausted. I'm going to hit the hay early tonight." If you can't fall asleep, you might say, "I'm tossing and turning." This describes the physical movement of moving around in bed when you can't get comfortable and sleep. You might say, "I was tossing and turning all night. I couldn't fall asleep." These idiomatic expressions make your English sound more natural and fluent. However, remember that they're more casual and are best used in informal situations with friends and family, rather than in formal work settings. Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to briefly touch on something fascinating: how daily routines can vary across different cultures. Understanding these differences not only helps you with English language learning, but also gives you insights into how people live around the world. For instance, meal times can be quite different depending on where you are. In many English-speaking countries like the United States, Canada, and the UK, people typically eat dinner between 6 and 7 in the evening. However, in Spain and many Latin American countries, dinner might not be until 9 or 10 at night. In some Scandinavian countries, dinner might be as early as 5 or 5:30. Breakfast also varies tremendously. In the United States, a typical breakfast might include eggs, bacon, pancakes, or cereal. In the UK, you might have a full English breakfast with eggs, bacon, sausages, beans, toast, and tomatoes. In Japan, breakfast might include rice, miso soup, fish, and vegetables. In many Middle Eastern countries, breakfast includes flatbread, cheese, olives, and vegetables. There's no right or wrong breakfast. Each culture has its own traditions. Work schedules also differ. In many countries, people work from 9 to 5 with a short lunch break of 30 minutes to an hour. In some Mediterranean countries, there's a tradition of a longer lunch break, sometimes 2 or 3 hours. And then people return to work in the afternoon and might work until 7 or 8 in the evening. In some Asian countries, working long hours is common, and people might not leave the office until 9 or 10 at night. The concept of work-life balance, which means having a healthy amount of time for both work and personal life, is viewed differently across cultures as well. Some cultures highly value time with family and leisure activities, while others place more emphasis on career and professional achievement. Even something as simple as greeting colleagues at work can be different. In some cultures, it's customary to shake hands with everyone when you arrive at work. In others, you might just wave or nod hello. In some workplaces, people are very formal and address each other by titles and last names, while in others, everyone is on a first-name basis from day one. These cultural differences are not better or worse than each other. They're just different. And one of the wonderful things about learning English is that it opens doors to understanding these differences and communicating with people from all over the world, who might have routines very different from your own. When you're learning English, it's helpful to learn not just the language, but also about the cultures where English is spoken. This cultural knowledge helps you communicate more effectively and avoid misunderstandings. Now, we're coming to the end of today's episode, but before we finish, I want to give you one final practice exercise and some encouragement for your learning journey. Here's the exercise. I want you to describe your perfect day. Not your typical day, but your ideal day. If you could design your day exactly how you wanted it, what would it look like? What time would you wake up? What would you have for breakfast? What activities would fill your day? Who would you spend time with? What would you do in the evening? Thinking about this in English is great practice because it allows you to use all the vocabulary we've creatively learned today. You might say something like, "My perfect day would start late, around 9 o'clock, because I love to sleep in. I would wake up naturally without an alarm. I would have a leisurely breakfast on my balcony, fresh fruit, yogurt, and coffee. Then I would go for a long walk in nature, maybe hiking in the mountains. I would have lunch at a nice restaurant with my best friend. In the afternoon, I would read a good book in the sunshine. I would cook a delicious dinner for my family, and we would eat together and laugh and talk. In the evening, I would watch the sunset, listen to music, and go to bed feeling peaceful and happy." See how this exercise uses so many of the verbs and phrases we learned? Try it yourself. Write it down or say it out loud. Don't worry about making mistakes. The important thing is to practice. Now, let me give you some encouragement. Learning a new language takes time, patience, and consistent effort. Some days it will feel easy, and you'll be excited about your progress. Other days it might feel difficult, and you might feel frustrated. This is completely normal and happens to every single language learner. The key to success is consistency. It's better to study English for 15 minutes every single day than to study for 2 hours once a week. Regular, frequent exposure to the language is what helps your brain internalize it and make it automatic. Also, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are not failures. They're learning opportunities. Every mistake you make and correct is a step forward in your learning journey. Native speakers make mistakes too. What matters is that you're trying, practicing, and improving. Find ways to make English learning enjoyable. Listen to English music, watch English movies or TV shows with subtitles. Read simple English books or articles about topics that interest you. And most importantly, try to use English in real situations whenever possible. The more you immerse yourself in the language, the faster you'll learn. Remember, you're not learning English just to pass a test or achieve some abstract goal. You're learning English to communicate, to connect with people, to access information, to travel, to advance in your career, or whatever your personal reasons are. Keep those motivations in mind when things get challenging. And celebrate your progress. If you understood most of this 30-minute podcast, that's already a huge achievement. If you learned even 5 or 10 new phrases today, that's wonderful. Every bit of progress counts, no matter how small it might seem. Well, dear listeners, we've covered so much ground today. We've talked about daily routines from morning to night, learned dozens of useful verbs and phrases, explored some idiomatic expressions, discussed cultural differences, and thought about how to practice what you've learned. Let me quickly recap the main sections we covered. First, we talked about the morning routine: waking up, getting out of bed, going to the bathroom, washing your face, brushing your teeth, getting dressed, having breakfast, and leaving the house to go to work. Then we discussed daytime activities: what happens at work or school, common work tasks like answering emails and attending meetings and having lunch. Next, we explored evening routines: coming home, relaxing, watching TV or reading, cooking and having dinner, spending time with family and friends, doing hobbies, and doing household chores. Finally, we talked about going to bed: your bedtime routine, brushing your teeth, setting your alarm, and going to sleep. We also learned some useful idioms and expressions, discussed how routines differ across cultures, and I gave you some practice exercises and encouragement for your learning journey. I hope this episode has been helpful and interesting for you. Remember, all the vocabulary and phrases we discussed today are available in the podcast transcript if you want to review them. I encourage you to listen to this episode multiple times. Each time you listen, you'll pick up more details, and the phrases will become more familiar. Before we say goodbye, let me remind you once more. Please subscribe to Rochford's English Learning channel if you haven't already. We have many more episodes planned to help you improve your English at all levels, from beginner to advanced. Share this podcast with friends, family members, colleagues, classmates, anyone who's learning English. And if you can, please leave us a rating and review. It really helps other learners find us. Also, I'd love to hear from you. If your podcast platform allows comments, please leave a comment telling me about your daily routine in English. Or let me know what topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Your feedback helps me create content that's truly useful for you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know you're busy, and I appreciate that you chose to learn English with Rochford's English Learning channel. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and remember that every day you're getting better and better. Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and have a wonderful day, or evening, or night, depending on when you're listening to this. This is Sarah from Rochford's English Learning channel, saying goodbye for now. Take care, everyone.